Broadcasters newsroom on GHOne TV coming up in this hour. Ralph Williams, who has been identified as the main suspect in the assault on health workers at the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, denies assaulting the nurse at the facility. Also in this broadcast, Inspector General of Police Christian GHOne assures public of the Ghana Police Service's readiness to provide a safe and secure environment for the upcoming by-election in Akwatia. Also, National Health Insurance Authority sanctions Akemoda Hospital following findings of malpractices in its operations and claims submissions. And later in business, the Institute for Fiscal Studies says government has failed to apply policy measures to improve revenue generation. We have more on this. The details of these stories and many others coming up in the next 60 minutes. Do stay with us here on GHOne. Many thanks for joining this broadcast. My name is Emmanuel Agyabeng. To a raging matter, and here Ralph St. Williams, who has been identified as the main suspect in the alleged assault on health workers at the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, has denied physically assaulting anyone at the facility. He indicates that he was only involved in a verbal altercation with the staff. Let's listen to what more he had to say in a Facebook post.
I think there was this narrative being put out there by the Rich Hospital that there was some assault and some invasion. Invasion in the context is when you are not, you forcefully enter somewhere, or you force yourself into places that you're not being allowed. I don't think it was the right word to use, that people invaded the hospital. As in what? And assault, I cannot say for evidential basis that any person that came here assaulted somebody physically. Verbally, yes, it was true, but something needs to trigger something. What actually happened? You know, bedside manners and negligence of medical staff was getting so much, and it draws the concern of anybody around, either a relative or a patient or whatever, to, you know, raise concerns. And we all know, those that have having opportunities to travel out and those that even see this in videos and, you know, post and other stuff, knows that countries where health is an essential thing in the lives of the people, countries where, you know, people's welfare, it's in the hands of the nurses and they understand the responsibility they carry, will never be using such statements like, you know, these statements are statements that you don't have to make it. On top of it, some were making statements like politicians, all in the name that you asked me to go and buy a bandage, and I asked you, a whole rich hospital doesn't have bandage. And this is the response you give me. Anybody will get triggered, do you understand, and react towards it. So if that is what they are actually terming as an assault, then maybe we would have to apologize for that. But some responsibilities needs to also be taken by the Minister of Health, because people are actually, if not sabotage, are acting irresponsible, and they need to be attended to. There need to be a response. There need to be
Williams is the main suspect in this whole assault case. But let's listen to the nurse, Rejoice Chocho Botier, who was physically assaulted, according to her, by Ralph St. Williams, which resulted in severe body pain, with her cell phone and money also stolen.
Okay. The blood had dried. Okay. So I just had to put a gauze on it so that we reassure him. He wasn't happy about it, so he took off the dressing I did for him. Okay. Then I approached him and I told him that I've done a dressing for you, so be patient. We have 2 trauma cases and other cases too are there. He wants us to leave them. He got angry and he started yes. So he did this to me. And then when he went out, I don't know where the guys came from. Most of the health workers saw them earlier, so they had flee. I didn't see them. And then they, from my back to my chest, and then they were just Raphael, I don't know, Raph did this to me. He hit me with the phone with the fist. And I even dodged a couple of the fists in it. Oh. They hit me
all over.
But right now I have a dislocation on my shoulder and some headaches and body pains.
In the wake of these incidents and the conversation thereof, many stakeholders, including the Minister of Health, have been speaking, and even the association for which the nurse belongs, the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association, are quite unhappy, declaring to strike after 48 hours if nothing is done. But let's cross over to Parliament now, where we do understand the Health Committee has been speaking to the media. Our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent at Parliament here at the EIB Network, Ibrahim Al-Hassan, joins me with details of that presser. IB, what more has the chairperson of the committee been saying, especially with respect to the intention to strike by the GRNMA?
Well, the chairperson, Dr. Mark Nawani, he's a medical doctor himself, and he says he's been practicing for the past 32 years. And so his own is an appeal to the nurses that striking Emmanuel is not an option, and that what happened, of course, at the Greater Accra Regional Hospital was regrettable. He condemns it in no uncertain terms, but the police ought to take action. And consequently, he has called on the police to update the public about investigations so far. And to him, the appeal is that the nurses must not trigger that option of a strike. But at the bottom of this fracas he mentions is the issue of inadequate health professionals. And so he explains that when health professionals are inadequate in any facility, there's pressure on that facility. And when patients visit that facility, they are very likely going to have the impression that Ralph and his friends and colleagues had, that responsiveness was not there, and that the health professionals were being negligent. It's because of the work overload on them. So to him, government holistically needs to give clearance. He says it might not be wholesale clearance, but if you look at a facility which is inadequately staffed, you can give that specific clearance for health professionals to be recruited ostensibly to fill in those gaps that exist within the facility. And so to Dr. Mark Nawani, the statement issued by the minority yesterday was most regrettable. He says the minority sought to politicize what transpired at the Greater Accra Regional Hospital by relating to past engagement of Ralph St. Williams, who had some altercation with Dr. Stephen Amwa in Parliament. And to the majority, this is an isolated incident. It's regrettable, it's condemnable, and it must not be politicized. The majority says it stands with the nurses and the health professionals, but then it must reconsider the decision to lay down its tools. And I'm talking about the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association. Emmanuel.
Now, on the front of the issues that have come up, of course, they are appealing not for the GRNMA to strike, but have they given any indication whatsoever that they will be visiting the hospital to have a first-hand assessment as a committee as well into this matter?
Well, the assurance is that the committee will throw every weight that it has behind the nurses, behind the health professionals, and then behind the facility in this matter. And that when the members of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association had a number of demands that they tabled before government that were not being addressed, that they decided to lay down their tools. It was this same committee that spearheaded that engagement that eventually resulted in the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association having some of their demands met and calling off the strike. And so it is with the same voice that is assuring the association that the committee is behind them. As to whether the committee will be visiting the facility, he doesn't say that. In fact, he talks about the fact that even rehashing what transpired will be something that will be unnecessary because the stories are out there. Everybody's aware of what transpired. What matters now is finding a remedy, and that's what the committee is ready and has assured that it will be doing.
Ivy, thank you so much for bringing us up to speed on what is happening in Parliament. Ibrahim Al-Hassan is our parliamentary affairs correspondent here at the EIB Network. But let's still stay a bit longer with this particular subject, as the Public Relations Officer for the Ministry of Health, Tony Goodman, has confirmed the arrest and detention of a key suspect involved in the Rich Hospital assault case. According to him, the suspect is currently being held at the Adabaka police station. Or speaking on News Tonight here on GHOne TV, Tony Goodman assured the public and concerned nurses that investigations are ongoing and that the main suspect, identified as Ralph, will soon be apprehended for questioning.
That person is not Ralph, it's his colleague who has been picked and is currently at Adabaka police station being questioned, and then further investigation is being conducted by the Adabaka police station as I speak to you. The necessary report has been made to the police. Persons who were injured have also reported to the police, and I'm sure they are doing their work.
Well, the Ministry of Health is as well pushing back against any criticism of the Sector Minister Kwabena Minta Kando after he was seen exchanging pleasantries with the suspect accused of assaulting health workers at the Greater Accra Regional Hospital. According to Tony Goodman, who serves as the PRO for the ministry, it is unfair to judge the minister based on that moment, insisting he had already taken steps to ensure the culprits face punishment.
This same gentleman was exchanging pleasantries. I cannot condemn the minister for exchanging pleasantries, but for him to go extra mile to be hugging this guy, whispering things, the guy was whispering things to the ear. He was, you see them giggling and laughing. It sent pain to our members. And the Labour Act was very clear in Section 119 that if you find the place where you are working to be dangerous, imminent danger, serious danger, or you have a reasonable cause of danger, you can remove yourself from the environment. At Rich, the nurses were very clear. They are not safe. They don't feel happy. They don't understand why Ralph is still walking about doing social media posts, making videos. It's as if apparatus cannot arrest those who need arrest.
Let's move away to some other political matters, and here the Inspector General of Police, COP Christian Tete GHOne, has assured that the Ghana Police Service is fully prepared to police the upcoming Akwetia by-election on September 2. He revealed that not less than 5,000 officers will be deployed to maintain law and order, stressing that this will be one of the most peaceful elections in history. While expressing confidence in his men to protect the ballots and ensure a smooth process, the IGP urged the public to play their part. He warned that anyone who attempts to foment trouble, especially through armed disruptions, will be dealt with decisively.
We are very confident. And what Ghanaians will see, they will know that yes, there's no fear for Akwetia. If you come quietly to vote, we'll also receive you quietly. If you come quietly to observe, we'll also observe you quietly. But if you have any intention of causing trouble, we'll not allow you to go free. We'll change your location. And that is why they mentioned the Black Maria. Means that we will house you in a different form. And that one, we have made up our mind that before your trouble will go far, we have already handled you. And that is why we have you over here. That you don't allow, and under no circumstance can anybody come to the police station to create a problem and we allow the person to go free. If you come with arms, we deal with you with arms. If you come to cause trouble, the public order management people will also handle you. And we have series and series of deployments. And we have series and series of backups. And I want to assure Ghanaians that not less than 5,000 policemen are being deployed are prepared and well prepared to go to Akwetia. We are going to fortify the collation center. The police stations are going to be fortified. We have 21 electoral areas, and we have POMA members, regional commanders are going to be the people who are going to command those areas.
Let's engage security analyst Emmanuel Agyabeng on this development coming from the Ghana Police Service. Many thanks for your time this morning, sir. This is the firm assurance you are getting from COP Christian Tete GHOne. As we understand it, not less than 5,000 men are going to be deployed, and he has said it's quite clear. If you come with arms, they'll deal with you with arms. Now, in light of what we have seen from the MPP concerning they providing their own security, this assurance from the IGP, do you believe it settles the matter?
Well, thank you for having me. Very good afternoon to your cherished listeners. In fact, this is the first time we will hear the IGP speak the manner he's speaking. We have kind of brought the lion out of him, given the experience we have at North Ablekuma elections we just held. So my concern is that it's just a by-election. We shouldn't militarize the place to look as if we are in a war zone. No. The second aspect is that security sometimes in cyber systems is not the number of people you deploy. So beg of him to make sure that they should put systems in place that are fair to both parties. But the MPP have been in government before, and they know that we are in a constitutional democracy, and when it comes to internal security, no other authority had that mandate than the police. So I think that it's politics as usual. I don't think they mean what they say. They are going to provide their own security. That would be tantamount to breaking the law. And I'll urge both parties to let sleeping dogs lie and allow the police as an institution to do its work. And if you measure the tone of the IGP, you can sense that he knows that depending on the outcome of the Akotia elections, it could make him even stay in power, or not stay in office, or not stay in office, because it will be the measuring, some form of measure to see his authority. Some of us believe in him. We know he's an intelligent-led person. We have not seen him speak this way. For him to come out this way means his job is even on the line if Akotia doesn't turn out well. So, as a security analyst, I know that we will come out with Akotia very clean. It should be fair, but we shouldn't militarize the place, and we should make sure we put systems like we have spoken in the past on your very network. When we're talking about putting parameters, if you are not a voter, you are not allowed into certain areas. And then we learn from the past. So the Ablekuma North by-election should guide us. And I think all in all will be fine.
Now, you mentioned quite clear that this is the first time we are seeing the IGP speak in the manner he did. Perhaps some key learning from the Ablekuma North election, but quite concerning as well is the strong statement that if you come in arms, we'll deal with you in arms. There's been some concerns largely about how police officers deal with personnel when it comes to using guns and ammunition to man the entire process. In light of this warning, and we believe that where he spoke to was a training camp where these police officers are given quite extensive training on how to behave and all of that. But for the public coming in and giving this warning from the IGP, what should the persons who are going to vote do in terms of this?
You see, he's speaking from intelligence he has, and nobody has preview to it. Don't forget, there are a lot of small arms in the hands of civilians. And if you listen and you put your ears on the ground, the main two political parties are all kind of giving statements to the effect that if the police cannot do its work, they will protect themselves. So to the civilians, to the voter, go there, cast your ballot, and go home quietly until the results are announced. We are just going to elect an MP, a representative who is going to represent the people of Akotia. If you go and you get yourself into any form of trouble, you will be dealt with by the law. So I will ask that Ghanaians across the political divide, situations where we have by elections and people are even moving far away, Saboba, to come to Akotia like we saw at Ablekuma. They should allow the indigenes of Ablekuma to have a breeder and choose whom they feel is befitting to lead them. So it also comes to our electoral reforms. As a country, we need to have a conversation. If there are by-elections, yes, 2, 3, 4 political parties just opposing or trying to sell their ideas, must it come to where arms will be used? Must it come to this kind of acrimonies like we have seen in the past? Our democracy has evolved, and this is what progressive societies do. When you see challenges looming, you find solutions to those challenges. And unfortunately, we are not looking at those angles. We are always putting the blame on the police to provide the needed security. We are not looking at the actions of we, the citizens. And I think the NPP and the NDC must all come together and put forward proposals so that when there are by-elections, we don't kind of inundate the constituency like we have seen in the past, as if it is a life and death situation. For Christ's sake, it's just a matter of electing someone to represent the people of Akotia, and we shouldn't be doing the kind of things we do. And we should also look at how we monetize our democratic processes. In Akotia, what I've seen already is how people are sending a lot of gifts to the indigenes. And this is vote buying. And what does it say about our electoral laws? It goes ultra-virus against our electoral laws. Is it not a former MC who paid money for his confirmation? The OSP mentioned his case yesterday that he was before court. So if we cannot streamline these things in tandem with our law, and we prosecute certain people for offenses that we do in the open, then I'm afraid our democracy is not evolving. And to the police, I think that they should set the systems like I mentioned. They shouldn't militarize the place. They should be focused and don't let any of the political parties accuse them of any form of favoritism. And to our own citizens who will be going there, if you have no business in Akotia, you are not an electorate. What is your business in Akotia? We have other things to do, for Christ's sake, around the country. And Akotia shouldn't look as if it is a life and death situation for the country.
Emmanuel Agyabeng, thank you so much for speaking with us. He is a security analyst, and we have been discussing largely the Akotia by-election. But let's move on to other matters now, because the OSP has come out to clarify that it is not the case that the Federal Bureau of Investigations, the FBI, found no evidence in corruption and have subsequently cleared former Sanitation Minister Cecilia Abunadapa. Now, in a statement released to the public on Tuesday, August 19, the office says that these reports are inaccurate and a mischievous misrepresentation of the OSP's half-yearly reports. The findings were the result of investigations conducted by the OSP and a parallel aspect by the FBI at the instance of the OSP, the statement read. Now, further, the OSP says its report only indicated that no direct and immediate evidence of corruption was found. A defined legal standard, which is said is materially different from blanket phrases such as no evidence or cleared. The OSP is urging the media and public to exercise accuracy and some level of fairness in reportage on these national issues. We are still staying on the OSP's half-yearly report, where it covered the period January to July 2025, where he has provided updates on a number of cases. Our legal affairs correspondent, Mutala Inusa, joins me in studio to give us up-to-date information on these cases. Mutala, what are we dealing here with in this report?
Yeah, so if you look at what the Office of the Special Prosecutor has just come up with, it's to give some updates on 8 cases that it has been prosecuting in court, and they are all pending. And the update that the OSP has given is ranging from January to July. Remember that July is the date that the legal year ends and all of that. So let's walk you through some of the cases that the OSP has provided update on. So Mustafa Hamid and 9 others in relation to this very case. The OSP is saying that the Mustafa Hamid, former CEO of the National Petroleum Authority, and 9 others, including 3 corporate entities, are before the court in relation to some 29 counts. And the update on this case is the effect that they are facing charges including conspiracy to commit extortion by a public officer, using public office for profit, conspiracy to commit money laundering, and money laundering involving nearly 300 million and seized asset value over 70 million Ghana cedis. And the status of this case that the ASP is telling us is that 26th of August, and we are in the legal vacation, so this case will come up before the vacation court virtually, because the vacation courts are dealing with the cases virtually, especially the High Court. The second one, Issa Seidu and 3 others. Yes, the OSP has been saying that these officers, there's the 3 public office officials and 1 retired official, and of course, the charges in relation to corruption by a public officer, using public office for profit, related to unlawful appropriation of 10 containers of a rice at Tema Port. And this case has been adjourned to October 21, the new legal year. So that is what it is with respect to this very case. Again, Charles Cromwell Nana being Wanwonto Bisiu, Charles Bisiu in there. And the OSP is saying that the former secretary to the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, 2 other businessmen, Andy Thomas. And remember that Andy Thomas has already been convicted because of a plea bargaining proposal that he sent to the Office of the Attorney General. And OSP, I beg your pardon, and has been agreed. So as we speak, he has been convicted and he's paid a fine and has been let go. But Charles Bisiu is still before the court. And in fact, this very case has been amended, and 2 more accused persons have been added to that. And the status of this case, according to the OSP, is that the case has been adjourned to 28th of August 2025, also before a vacation court, and that is how it will be treated. Then the case of one Ibrahim Kofi Sessa, what the OSP is saying is that Ibrahim Sessa is technician, local government service, and Anthony Jesse, GES IT officer, Sadia Al-Hassan, a teacher, and of course, Francis Asari, in this case before the circuit court. What the OSP is saying is that these accused persons are facing charges of bribery, using public office for profits, and of course, money laundering related to unlawful sale of GES appointment letters. Interesting one in there. And this case has been adjourned to October 16, also in the new legal year, which spans from October 1 to July 2026. Tahiru Yakubu and 5 others also. This case is in the northern region. And what the OSP is saying is that Tahiru Yakubu is a former teacher. Abdullah Abubakar Said Sadiq is a IPPD coordinator. Sami Souk Siso, aka Siso. Mohammed Yusuf J, a former headmaster. Stafford Kolite Azude Barris, assistant chief account technician. Osman Isahaku, currently at large. That's what the OSP is trying to say. And 22 counts, including corruption corruption by a public officer, and false certificates causing financial loss related to government payroll fraud. And this case, we are being told that convicted via plea bargaining, financial restitution completed. So they have also gone under plea bargaining. And what the OSP is saying is that they've gone through the financial processes and all of that. Then Alexander Kwamna Safo Kantanka. Recently, we've had that in the news. Alexander Kwamna Safo Kantanka, president nominee, GHOne Municipal Assembly. In this case, is before the Criminal Court 4, Justice Comfort Tasiame's Court, and corruption related to public election fund. And the status is that, acquitted by the High Court, OSP has filed an appeal at the Court of Appeal in relation to this very case. So these are some of the things that, or the cases that the Office of the Special Prosecutor has been giving update on. And then Sumaila Abdul Rahman, Stephen Eggman, Patrick Seidu, Andrew Kudari, and the OSP is saying that the former CEO, the former deputy CEOs of Northern Development Authority and CEO of A&QS Consortium Limited, that is the accused persons in relation to this matter, and they are facing 11 counts, including conspiracy to influence procurement, corruption by a public officer, and of course, corruption of a public officer. And the status of this case is the effect that the trial is ongoing, appeal pending at the Court of Appeal. So the OSP is saying that in relation to this very case, appeal is pending at the Court of Appeal. So, Emmanuel, these are the updates that the Office of the Special Prosecutor, led by Agyabeng, has been providing, especially in relation to cases that his office has been dealing with.
Mutala, thank you so much for bringing us up to speed on that half-yearly report. But let's turn our attention to health here, because as the NHIA makes payments of claims, it as well investigates in compliance with some of the claims that have come to its office. And here, a clinical and compliance audit report has directed the Achimota Government Hospital in the Eastern Region to refund an amount of 312,413 cedis, 51 pesos, received as claims reimbursed to the National Health Insurance Authority. And this follows findings of more practices in its operations and claim submission. The audit, sanctioned by the Chief Executive Officer of the NHIA, Dr. Victor Asare Bampo, was conducted in response to a whistleblower report alleging fraudulent practices at the facility between February and May 2025. Dr. Bampo called for the audit in accordance with Sections 31 and 35 of the National Health Insurance Act. Now, the multidisciplinary audit team, comprising personnel from the NHIA's Quality Assurance and Internal Audit Directorates, Claims Processing Center, and an external clinician, conducted investigations in the month of July from the 14th day to the 18th day of July 2025. Their mandate was to validate these claims, and following that, they realized that per their assessment, some amount of money in excess of 300,000 were wrongful claims. The Chief Executive Officer of the Environmental Protection Agency, Professor Brown Kluche, says government is currently engaging stakeholders to ban styrofoam plastics in the country. Speaking during the Made International Solid Waste Association conference to find solutions to waste management challenges in Africa, Professor Kluche disclosed that government is also considering the ban of other forms of plastics to reduce pollution in the country.
The 3-day conference themed Charting Africa's Path to a Wasteless Future, Integrated Strategies for Sustainable Waste Management, brought together experts from across the continent and beyond to share knowledge, build networks, and explore career opportunities. Speaking to journalists at the event, President of SWAG, Ernest Kusi, underscored the critical role of private sector involvement, academia, and citizen engagement in effective waste management.
So the topmost one challenge that Africans are facing, in my view, has to do with the talking or maybe walking the way, or government making sure that he is committed to what he says. Where there is a will, there is a way. When government is committed that he wants to solve the problem, we can solve it. Again, citizenry, our attitude has to change towards sanitation. The way we are littering, at first you can even take water and drink from the stream. These days you can't do it anymore because all our waste is being washed into the water bodies.
President of the International Solid Waste Association Africa Chapter, Deji Faule, also called on stakeholders to prioritize homegrown solutions to Africa's sanitation challenges.
The idea is to promote the ISWA mission, which is sustainable waste management. And by doing that on a continental level, we are bringing the ISWA mission to the continent. So with the national members, anyone who is a member of that association is part of the chapter and part of ISWA. So by coming together, we hold meetings, we hold events like this one. And the hope is that we do what they call knowledge sharing. We share ideas. We learn from countries around the continent on what they are doing. How can we learn from the next country and share ideas, share what works, what are the challenges, and then we hold events to discuss that.
Chief Executive of the Environmental Protection Authority, Professor Brown Kluche, revealed that government is currently engaging stakeholders on plans to ban styrofoam plastics in the country.
From the EPA, we have the laws, we have the guidelines to even go ahead with the ban. But we also understand that we are dealing with Ghanaians, we are dealing with people with businesses, we are dealing with people who have a culture of using rubbers and plastics. And so we want to take things slowly. We have started engaging stakeholders, and we believe that we will get there very soon. In following with other nations like Rwanda, like Kenya, who have been successful in banning certain types of plastics. I hope we'll get there to help with our waste management system in Ghana.
The conference featured speakers from Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa, Germany, and Belgium, underscoring the global interest in tackling Africa's waste management challenges.
You're still watching Newsroom on GHOne TV. Up next is the Business Brief.
The Business Brief is brought to you by CompuGhana, passion for technology.
In the Business Brief, President John Dramani Mahama says his government plans reviewing the Ghana Investment Promotion Act to remove the minimum capital requirements for foreign investors. He explained that the move is aimed at removing trade barriers and aims to attract more businesses to the country. He was speaking in an interaction with Japan business owners during the 9th Tokyo International Conference on African Development in Japan.
We're open for business, and Simon and Co are busy at work reviewing the Ghana Investment Promotion Center Act. Some barriers were put to foreign investment. You had to prove that you had brought in a certain amount of money to be classified as a foreign investor. In the reviewed Ghana Investment Promotion Center Act, we're removing those minimal capital investments. This will enable any investor, however little money you have, $100,000, $50,000, to be able to come in and set up a business in Ghana. Again, we have a track record for hosting Japanese companies. And as you saw from the list there, by
For Fiscal Studies, IFS, has said that the government has failed to apply its fiscal policy measures to improve on the limited revenue generation that has characterized the structure. That the sector is specifically meant to serve as a source of forest generation and public source of revenue mobilization, but remains the same without any significant change. My colleague Calvin Powell is at a presser being organized by the IFS, which has been addressed by Leslie Dwight-Mensah. He joins me with more details on this. Calvin, is the focus largely just on the mineral sector, or there is more you're saying concerning 2025 revenue performance? So the IFS has a huge concern about how much money as a nation we are generating from the extractive sector, according to the IFS. This particular monies we get from the extractive sector, where we're looking at not just gold, but all of the sector in its entirety, is supposed to bring us some boost when it comes to forex transactions and as well serve as a public source of revenue to undertake developmental projects. But according to the IFS, looking at the 2025 performance so far, government is performing below targets, and they believe this is attributable to government's failure to apply revenue measures as stipulated in its fiscal policy. My colleague Calvin Powell is at the presser, and he joins me with more details on this. Calvin, what more has Leslie Dwight-Mensah been saying at the presser?
performance in terms of revenue generation, both domestic and external. And he mentioned that the government falls short of 3.24 billion Ghana cedis in terms of domestic revenue generation. And also externally, government falls short of 338.72 million Ghana cedis in terms of foreign grant and revenue that was supposed to be garnered by the government in the first half of the year. So clearly, according to IFS, government is underperforming when it comes to revenue generation. Government actually targeted 32.96 billion Ghana cedis to be an amount to be realized from January to June. But as we speak, that has not realized. I have here with me Mr. Leslie to throw more light on what actually the situation is. All right, Mr. Leslie, you are live on GHOne television. So tell us, you mentioned that government is underperforming in terms of revenue generation. What is really the situation and what is accounting for this?
Well, in the first half of the year, the government's actual revenue generation was about 3.2 billion cedis below target. In addition, the government's plans to raise financing, which is another term for borrowing, those plans were substantially under executed. So the combination of the underperforming revenue and the failure to raise the expected financing led to a substantial under-execution of the budget on the expenditure side. So the overall spending plan for the first half of the year was under-executed by more than 15%. And particular areas of expenditure were considerably under-executed. The primary one is the capital budget, which was underspent by more than 60% in the first 6 months of the year. Now, this is despite the government's bold big push infrastructure agenda. The big push infrastructure agenda, as I understand it, is an effort to raise the level of public investment. Now, there are two ways to improve public investment. One is to improve the quantity of the investment, i.e. the expenditure on capital projects. The second is to improve the quality of the investment, which could be by improving the benefits of the projects that you select or improving the quality of project selection. Now, the big push plan is not delivering on any of these things. One, the quantity of investment is going down, not up. And there's been no suggestion by the government that it has improved project selection. So the funding difficulties of the budget have led to a substantial under-execution of public investment.
All right, so if funding is a difficulty to government and you are advising the government shouldn't return to the international bonds market, where should government focus in terms of getting funding to tackle issues of big push and the rest?
Well, we caution the government to not prioritize a return to the international bond market in the light of recent history. Okay? Now, in the recent past, when the government under the former administration faced serious challenges with revenue generation, they responded in two ways. One, they doubled down on tax increases. So they raised taxes many times from 2018 till they exited office. And then two, they doubled down on their borrowing from the international bond market. And we are concerned that this present administration may be forced to head in that direction in the face of the revenue difficulties and the financing constraints.
But we're cautioning that, this is the same market that tossed us out only recently and triggered, a calamitous economic crisis. Therefore, we should be hesitant to rush to that market in order to get out of the constraints we face now. We're saying that rather we should prioritize revenue generation. And that prioritization should involve a pivot in the revenue strategy to the extractive sector, to a new approach to revenue generation in the extractive sector, which would allow us to improve revenue generation while at the same time reducing the tax burden, as every government actually desires to do. Often the governments come into office desirous of reducing the tax burden, but once they come up against, the revenue mobilization wall, they, go back on their pledges and begin to raise taxes. And we're cautioning this government, 7 or 8 months into office, to be wary of adopting that same strategy.
Thank you so much for your insight. All right, so Emma, as you've heard Mr. Leslie mentioned, saying that government shouldn't go back to the international bonds market because that has led us to the painful domestic debt exchange, which some people have suffered. And also he is saying that government should be pragmatic about revenue mobilization, particularly focusing on the extractive sector and making sure that some tax handles are also mitigated not to burden the consumer largely. So these are the things that they have been recommending to government to do. And they mentioned that government not meeting the target of its revenue mobilization the first half of the year would continue up to the end of the year. Ima.
Thank you so much for bringing us up to speed on happenings at the IFS. He is a reporter here with the EIB Network. Let's now bring you the sports brief. In sports, all roads lead to the Legon Sports Stadium today as the Galka Top 4 kicks off. The chairman of Galka, GHOne, has confirmed that all scheduled programs will proceed as planned despite the change in venue. The tournament begins today with Asante Kotoko facing Bibiani Gold Stars in the opening match.
We are playing currently, we'll play the top 4, which begins tomorrow at UG, at Legon Stadium. And the fixtures are still the same, nothing has changed. The gate opens at 3, and then we'll play the second game at 6. And so maybe quickly let me run you through the gate fees and other things. When you go to Legon, the green fee all around is 20 cedis. And then when you come to the red fee, that is 100 cedis. And then we have the blue fee, which is also 150. And I'm talking about 150 Ghana. And then so these are the lay-down programs that we are doing. The gate opens at 12 o'clock, and we are ready to go.
Well, let's now hear from the coach for Bibiani Gold Stars, Frimpong, who says the Galka Top 4 tournament will be a good test for his side.
I think the top 4 will be a very good test for us. Like you said, to form us a very good preparation for us going to the Africa. And if you look at the teams involved in the top 4, Kotoko will also be going to Africa. House of Folk, they also have that prestige when it comes to Ghana football. And then Heart of Lions, if you watch them during the just ended league, you could see they also have the quality. So for me, it's a tournament we'll take it seriously because it will help us. If we are able to go through all the games, I think it will put us in a very good shape going to Africa.
Those who will not be able to make it to the Legon Sports Stadium, well, GHOne TV and Star FM is your place to tune into because at 3 p.m. and at 6 p.m. we'll be carrying live coverage of this tournament in its entirety from the 20th, as you do know, of this month to the 24th. My name is Emmanuel Agyabeng. Until next time, have a wonderful afternoon.